All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 3, Ms. Channel. I'm going to turn it right over to you at this point, and thank you for making the announcement.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm so proud to sit here today to share Noel Tordson's retirement. He has spent 32 years with our school district, and we are so very proud of all the time that he's dedicated to the Wausau School District and look forward to hearing about his great adventures once he retires. So, Noel, we are so happy for you. We are going to greatly miss you, but congratulations. And I would like to share that Jen Bonke will be taking his position as our Supervisor of Financial Services, so we're excited to have Jen stay in our team. So congratulations, Jen.
Noel, I won't ask if you have anything to say because I know you are a very quiet individual, so I won't put you on the spot. Did I hear something? Oh, there we go. Thank you. The committee will be asked to approve the audit of the bills. I'm seeking a motion to approve the audit of the bills as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anyone to speak to us? With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Dr. Katie Caldwell and Ms. Shell will provide an annual notice of the adoption of the Wisconsin Academic Standards by the Wausau School District. The Wisconsin Academic Standards outline for districts the knowledge and skills students should acquire in each content area throughout their education. The standards also provide guidance for teachers during the development of their lesson plans and instructional practices, ensuring students are learning the skills they need. And with that,
Good evening, everybody. We are here once again to get your approval to use the Wisconsin Academic Standards for the 26-27 school year. Okay. They were created in 1988 to specify what students should know and be able to do in the classroom. They serve as goals for teaching and learning. In 2015, the Wisconsin Act 55 was an annual notice of the standards. It was signed into law for school districts to bring forward this to their Board of Education. And the standards are reviewed on a 6 to 7 year cycle from the Department of Public Instruction. This fall, DPI plans to review the standards for dance, art, and design education, world languages, and environmental literacy. And there are 25 content standards. They have added the additions of art and design and then the WIDA English language developmental standards as well.
And the way that we kind of keep them alive here in the district and keep teachers and educators engaged in those standards and ensuring that we are providing instruction that aligns with the standards. One of our biggest assets is our K-12 leadership teams, or our departments and our department chairs that run that at the secondary level, and our leadership teams at the elementary level. And they work to identify those key learning outcomes based on the standards that they should grow and shift and change over time. They work on aligning the depth of knowledge of the assessments, so ensuring that, looking at what those assessments look, making sure that our assessments are aligned with the depth of knowledge that the Wisconsin standards are asking our students to know and be able to do. And then to discuss potential shifts in teacher practice. And of course, alignment to our curricular resources is really important, that teachers have high quality resources that they can leverage as a tool to ensure that we are teaching the standards that students should know and be able to do.
So our motion is to approve the Wisconsin Academic Standards for the use in the 2026-27 school year.
and with that, I'm seeking a motion to move forward.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Agenda item 6 is time for the annual renewal of our WIA memberships at Wausau East, Wausau West, and WAVE. An example of the renewal application is attached. Each school will have a renewal completed. Are there any questions about this? If not, I'm seeking a motion to recommend to the full board the approval of the WIA renewals for Wausau East, Wausau West, and Wave as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Annually, the school board must review the implementation of AGR strategies and the school's progress on performance objectives at the end of every semester. Tonight, we will look at the learning outcomes and plans around our second semester AGR schools data and continuous improvement plan priorities. And I turn it over
We
to
got
you,
crew
Michelle.
coming up, so a team
Large team.
effort for as many that were able to make it with us tonight.
Yeah, I'll slide down. There we go. It's like a clown car. Welcome to elementary. Here we are. Yes, great. Well, thank you for having us tonight. Once again, we are here with some of our building leaders as well and our district leaders to present some information around student outcome scores and things with our AGR schools. It is a requirement for us to come before you twice a year, so we're excited to just kind of give you our spring update. So with that, just a reminder, for those of you that AGR might be new, it's the Achievement Gap Reduction. And the intention of the funds that we receive is to maintain class sizes of 18:1 or 30:2 in classroom ratios, and the other options are there in terms of what you can choose from as a way to utilize those funds. And we choose in the Wausau School District to maintain that 18:1 class size in our AGR schools in those lower grades. So each school will create performance objectives, which falls right in line with the alignment of our continuous improvement plans in kindergarten through third grade. In the areas of math and reading, we collect data in both those areas, and then we need to identify specific local assessments to help monitor that progress and report out on that progress. And this is really part of something that all of our buildings do. So this isn't any different than the reporting out that we do in all of our buildings, but it's making sure that we are also reporting out to the state what those outcomes are for AGR schools. So you will see we use the Ames Web Plus screener in literacy, and then in math we use both the Forefront Number Sense screener and the iReady diagnostic screener. So even though it's called the diagnostic, remember that is truly a 3 times the year screener.
Hi, I'm Sandy Lewis. I am the elementary literacy coordinator. So Kim Pearson, our math coordinator, was unavailable today, but she has been working really hard with new teachers and coming in order to provide AVMR training for all of those. That's been the district initiative. And then as we get new staff, she continues to offer opportunities for them to get trained within that. So at this point within our K2, we are looking at almost 100% across the district. She is also really working hard on AVMR2, which is a kind of an optional, but for a little bit of those higher level grades, and really working through that. Just a real quick little adjustment related to our PSPs, which is our personal support plans, which is aligned to Act 20. So every building has opportunities both within the screener time and within every 10 weeks to really go through and look at our student data trends and identify if students are ready to exit. And we have had some really great increases in terms of our exits this year. Last year, which obviously was the first year of Act 20 implementation, we averaged in buildings anywhere from 1 to 15% of students exiting, and as you can tell, we're up to 29 to 40% of students that are exiting now. So we're starting to see all of our hard work pay off for our students.
So what are we attempting to accomplish as a team? So we really wanted our district level and building level administrators to collaborate and look at their continuous improvement planning process. In 25-26, we focused on the universal practices with each school's SIP plans being aligned to one broader practice, such as accessibility, routines, and scaffolding. I just would like to say in June, the 10th and 11th, we had a very successful district-wide 4K through 12th grade teams from all 17 schools work through a 2-day, 6 hours each day on a data retreat. So they dug into their data at each of their buildings, looking at what can we do to improve what we're doing really, really well at our buildings and where we need some growth. So every school brought a team together, and it was a very successful 2 days, looking at what is that goal for next year, that continuous improvement plan for each building moving forward.
Yes, and just to highlight is K-12, 4K through 12. We are working through a model, which is the Charlotte Danielson model, which is what we use for our teacher educator effectiveness evaluations here in Wausau, and many districts across the state use that. And we're just all concentrating at the elementary next year on certain clusters, which is certain pathways in the Danielson model that includes a plethora of instructional strategies to use with students. So we're focusing, we're all honing in and collaborating around 3 of those clusters that both model pro-social learning environments, as well as some strategies within that would sustain student stamina and persistence to the task, things like that are high leverage strategies when you look at research behind what helps a student gain outcomes. And we also are heavily leaning in on cluster 6, which is around like collaborative planning and collaborative work together as teams. So really looking to align some of our use of our professional learning community time and our common grade level planning time, and including our special ed, multilingual, and title teachers into that space the best we can to increase our collective efficacy. So it's really exciting to see that even though different buildings will have some nuances on the instructional strategies we're approaching, we have some really great space as an elementary team on in-service days to pull together and do some really great things together as a team that will be collective amongst all the elementary schools.
So these are our 3 AGR schools, Franklin, G.D. Jones, and Thomas Jefferson, and we just asked principals to highlight some things that they're looking at implementing next year. So I'm just going to share with Franklin's peer observation and collaboration, teachers developing consistency at their grade level through the use of classroom engagement plans, and then developing a school-wide toolbox of scaffolds for both specific curricular resources and cross-content areas.
I'm Jen Davidson, the principal at G.D. Jones, and our first one, last year we worked on routines and structures, just really getting things in place with consolidation. Next year we're digging into establishing those high expectations for academic and behavioral procedures, which really includes that attendance and getting our parents engaged so that kids are at school, because if they're not at school, we can't do any of the other things.
Hi, I'm Phil Beck. I'm the Associate Principal at G.D. Jones. Once those high expectations and behavior procedures are established, as Ms. Davidson mentioned, it really clears the runway for some deep data-driven learning. To maximize instructional time, our school is grounding ourselves in the PLC process. We're moving beyond just common planning time and really into those highly structured collaborative inquiry. So this past school year, just for example, I piloted a reflective process with one team of teachers where we really looked at common assessments, whether it be an exit ticket, whether it be a end-of-unit math assessment, and asked these 3 questions. What do we notice? What do we wonder? And then what are we going to try next? So this shifted the focus really to that collective teacher efficacy. And next year we'll scale that across all 6 grade levels. And really just enhance that strategic collaboration. Which then brings me to the 3rd bullet point. If you look at the 3rd point under G.D. Jones, planning to embed our district math and literacy coordinators. This was something we did last year as well. It was very successful. It just brings expert coaching right to the table where we need it most, whether it's Kim helping our teachers understand how to implement strategies to support productive struggle, whether it's Sandy helping us navigate Act 20, and those PSPs. It's really just ensuring that our high expectations are being matched by that highly targeted instruction. Pass it over to Matt.
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
Good evening, Matt Schilling, Associate Principal at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School. As you can see, our focus for next year is having high expectations for our students, especially in our common areas such as the lunchroom, outside the hallways, so that they know exactly what is expected of them behavior-wise, and staff knows how to respond if they don't follow our expectation, that it's always a consistent message. Another goal would be facilitating productive struggle. So again, sometimes we have students who are given a problem, it's hard for them, and we just want to shut down and sit there. How can we support them, give them strategies so that they can attempt to do the problem and break that huge problem down to smaller pieces for them to actually do? And then lastly, we just wanted to build upon our relationships with our families. We did an awesome job with consolidation this year with the Grant and Jefferson families on informing them on what's happening, but we want to continue to build on that and share what's all happening within the classroom.
Then we also are going to inform you a little bit about our math outcomes. So the screeners we use, as I mentioned before, are the forefront number sense, which it's important to note that in kindergarten and first grade, that's a one-on-one. We call it an interview-based assessment where the student is with the teacher one-on-one. And then second through fifth grade is the diagnostic, which is a computer adaptive thing that they take on the iPad. So just so you're aware of those spaces, and that's what's included in the data that you will see. So we always like to show kind of all buildings and a trajectory for all buildings. So on the next slide, you'll see that we've changed. We've talked about this. iReady has stayed the same for us in terms of the tool we use in math. And over the last from the fall of 23-24 until now, we've seen, a slow uphill trajectory line coming through. And our scores from this year in all buildings remain at around that 62 to 64%, at benchmark or above. And then the next slide is just our AGR buildings. So this is our kind of K-5 math trajectory, again, an uphill trajectory over the last couple of years. And you'll see some nice gains this year in the AGR buildings overall from fall to spring of 25-26. Then we'll break it down here into kindergarten and first grade. So note that this was the first year that we used the forefront screener in the fall of 25-26. So you see some really nice gains in kindergarten for the percent of students meeting benchmark or above, as well as first grade. You see that uphill climb and that overall climb over the last couple of years. When you look at second and third grade, again, we've talked about this before. We're either kind of maintaining or a slight decline there in second and third grade with math. When you look at the percentages and the statistical significance of those spaces, it's not a lot of kids, but there is some stability there, at least in second and third grade in the groups this year. Then in fourth and fifth grade, again, fourth grade kind of maintaining around that space, around 58%-ish or so at benchmark, and a slight decline in fifth grade when you look at the ups and downs for that space. So we'll move on to literacy.
So literacy, we are mandated by Act 20 in order to provide the Ames Web Plus screener. Again, for kindergarten and first grade, that is a interview-based measure where they are given lots of individual timed kind of measures for that. Second through fifth grade, actually all the way up through eighth grade we utilize it, is computer-based assessment. Second and third grade does have a 1-minute oral reading fluency read. So our next slide then also is all of our kind of data. You can see that from last year to this, we've had a nice little jump, especially in the fall. A little bit of a decline as we went through the year, but knowing that we need to kind of continue to beef up our work as we continue through our year, but we are showing an improvement throughout the time. Here's our AGR buildings, really similar to what we're seeing as a district measure. Again, we just need to maintain where we are, but again, we have great improvement over the prior year. Here we kind of go into our kindergarten and first grade. There was a little bit of change in norms for both of our kindergarten and first grade. And first grade had an entirely new composite, off of it. But we're starting to see a real consistency of growth compared to the previous years and being able to kind of show what our students are knowing. Second and third grade, also, we're starting to really see kind of a fairly stable trend, really similar to math, where we have a little bit of discrepancies, but they're not huge on that one. We need to continue working on focusing on that core instruction and kind of supporting our students along those lines of fluency. Fourth and fifth grade had a really nice, strong jump throughout the year. Fourth grade had a little bit of a decline as they continued through. Again, we kind of had some of those new norms come into effect, and that really is dependent on how different grades got normed out based onto the new data. We do know as a whole this is kind of consistent with what the state has been seeing too for Ames Web screeners. Another element that we have that is just a nice little data piece for us is related to one of our universal resources, which is really great reading. They have kind of program composite scores that can be given across. So beginning of program is the BOP, middle of program, and end of program. I had a lot of feedback from kindergarten because we see kind of a bigger decrease there, that the measure and kind of the layout of the end of program changed from what the students were accustomed to. So normally they would have one question on a page or on the screen as they would do it, and this one had multiple steps kind of. So that just tells us as we're preparing students to take that end of program composite for kindergartners, we need to make sure we're modeling and showing them what the expectations are. That was kind of a new learning curve for us this year, but otherwise we're seeing some really nice growth between our first through third grade students.
Great. And as we mentioned, just our continued or next steps, we're going to focus on those universal practices for K through 12th grade next year, but we have kind of that vision for the elementary. We're working on developing some common assessments so that we can track our everyday instruction in a more systematic fashion outside of just our screening scores. You know, these screeners are intended to catch kids who might be in need of support early on. They're really not intended to be an overall view of a student's overall academic achievement. And so we need to continue to support our teachers in the everyday work that they're doing in planning such rigorous lessons each day. How do we utilize our current resources and our core instruction and tools and strategies that teachers bring to the table to look at those pieces, those performance tasks, those end of module assessments, and what does that tell us about what our students know and where we need to go next as teachers. So we're really trying to build, every first grader in the Wausau School District should experience these kinds of assessments and or performance tasks to let us know how we're really doing, in addition to forward testing, in addition to the screeners, but developing that consistency and that common language that we can talk with each other in grade level meetings about really meaningful spaces. And then the professional development piece is continuing to work through the building of the common assessments and working through our understanding and teachers' capacity around universal practices. And that concludes our formal presentation. If you have any questions for us.
Open up to the board.
Yeah, I've got one, and actually came as a result of Mr. Schilling's comment on behavior. I was approached, this was a few weeks ago, by a staff member, just out in public, and of course asked how are things going. Great. Oh, by the way, I did have one interesting encounter in a classroom. And long story short, this person was in an elementary classroom in some support type function, and there was a student who was being extremely disruptive, not listening, not, causing trouble for the whole class, right? What we've been hearing over and over again. And the teacher was a newer teacher, was having a little bit of a difficulty, I guess, getting this child under control. Well, this tenured person said she stepped in and said, look, you're not going to behave that way, no uncertain terms, this, that, and the other thing. And the child stopped, went back to kind of doing the thing, and the class carried on. after the class, the teacher said to this individual, "You can do that?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, you can do that. You have to manage your classroom." She's like, "Well, I had no idea that we could, be that direct or that stern or something like that." So my question is, as part of this, whether it's AGR or not AGR, when it comes to management and professional development, classroom management, professional development, especially at the elementary level, do we do training for teachers and let them know that they are supported by administration, by the board to enforce classroom management and proper classroom behavior?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, for sure.
When I think about when we just brought two groups of teachers together, there's some training that goes on, like what are our behavior response protocols? How do we manage different things? How do we respond to different behaviors?
Okay.
That type of stuff happens. We have specific procedures that teachers can use when they're not sure.
Sure.
Anytime we have our pupil services teams, which are amazing, and they will step in and jump in and model and teach. Our bridge coordinators have done some of that. So I think it's just a matter of making sure that us as leaders are stepping up and saying, hey, we are here.
Yeah.
Like for anything, and stepping in when need be before it gets to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like we need to take back the classroom, right? I mean,
We're working on some professional development already. We've planned for the first day back for paras and teachers to
Okay.
go through some of those things.
and it's understandable why. I mean, the climate right throughout education has been, restorative, hands off, don't touch, don't say anything, because teachers are afraid, rightfully so, right, that there's going to be some bad outcome for them or whatever the case may be. But at some point, we have to let them know that they are supported, that we are not going to tolerate those types of behaviors in classrooms, and that we will stand behind them. I mean, of course, there's a limit. I'm not talking about anything physical or whatever. But it would be great to send a message to them and saying, hey, you know what? If a kid is doing this in your classroom, here's 5 things you can do or say, and you're going to be supported by the district in doing so and managing your classroom.
I think that goes with our rotation of, we do math at one staff meeting, literacy at another, in behavior. So it's coming up every month with different situations that they do.
Okay.
And I'm only speaking for our building, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, when hearing the story, I felt bad for that teacher who felt handcuffed, like, she couldn't do anything, and yet this tenured person comes in and is just like, hey, no, we're not going to tolerate that BS, and, put an end to it. And the classroom went on, and this teacher was like, wow, I didn't even know that I could, operate like that.
Sure.
So it was just kind of an awakening moment for her that hopefully it'll, take hold going forward.
We've been digging in all year with all of our elementary schools, led by, Wendy, as well as her pupil services team, and Amy Barazin and Andy Grimm, and all of our building leaders, and really focusing in on getting feedback from staff on what their needs are, what's going well, what are your needs, what do we have as resources we can offer in the district, and letting principals that's part of our SIP plan, those clusters I was talking about. 2 of those are classroom environment and classroom management, like learning environment and classroom management. 2 of the clusters that we're all focusing on are those 2 spaces for next year. So we'll be doing continued, I would say, professional development and support around all of those things, because I think part of it is how strongly, are we laying out what our expectations are in certain spaces? How are we acknowledging and reinforcing those behaviors? And sometimes it might be an interrupting kind of thing, like a different tone of voice or things like that, that also interrupt patterns of behavior. So I think there's lots of tools that you can fit in the tool bag, but that's all part of, and really extensive. We've been out 3 times to buildings and gathered 3,000 sticky tabs or 1,500 sticky tabs or something, where a significant amount of sticky tabs, and really trying to solicit from staff, what are we doing well, what's working, what are our resources, and what's our next steps moving forward to help support and continue that work. So
Yeah.
it'll be a continued piece of professional development and a huge part of our continuous improvement plans as we move into next year, and you'll see that threaded through all of our elementaries. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we can almost overcomplicate it ourselves, right? By gathering 1,500 pieces of data, right? I mean, at some point, enough is plenty, and you can just go out and say, look, we hear you. Here's the tools that you have available. We're going to support you. You don't have to tolerate A, B, C, and D, right? I mean, we don't need any more data to be able to justify that and to be able to empower the teachers to be able to manage our classrooms in a constructive way. So hopefully we don't get bogged down in too much of that analysis.
Yeah.
But, okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Sarah, go
I
ahead.
could bring it back to the assessment piece for a minute. Cassie, I hate to do this to you. Any chance you can find the slide that specifically references the K-1 forefront graph?
Sure.
Say that again?
K1.
The K-1.
So it's probably
It's
slide,
got a huge, Jen knows exactly what I'm asking.
it's back in the beginning.
Yeah, right, oh, right there, this one?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. So was this the first year that forefront was being used?
Yeah.
Can you talk, I mean, obviously, that's massive growth in comparatively year to year and comparatively across the board in every way that we can see. Can you speak a little bit to why the switch to forefront, the training that goes into those one-on-one for those teachers? Just questions. So
Yeah,
I'd love
for
to
sure.
learn more about
I mean,
that.
Yeah, certainly our building leaders who are digging in and seeing those things happening, but overall, there's a huge difference when you're working with littles around a one-on-one teacher guided assessment versus clicking on an iPad. So one of the huge reasons we went away from iReady at kindergarten, because they offer the diagnostic and we've used it at kindergarten, is just the validity of the results. We weren't sure we were getting really solid results. And another transition to forefront was its alignment with some of the AVMR strategies and some of the mathematical practices and some of the outcomes that we were hoping around number sense to get from a different assessment outside of iReady. But I don't know if any of the building leaders want to lift up anything else in terms of.
That, I think the interview base just gives you a better picture. And I've heard fourth and fifth grade teachers say, is there something like that for the big kids
I
too?
just feel like it eliminates some of the anxiety, some of the technical potential issues, things like that.
For sure.
Obviously, the staffing of a one-on-one.
Yes, it does take training.
is
Yes, it takes a
impressive,
lot
yeah.
more time. If you hear teachers saying, we're just assessing and it takes a long time, that's the one con of an interview base, but I think they all wanted to do something outside of iReady that, that came from grassroots of people saying, this isn't giving us what we think our kids can really do, so.
I'm really excited to see how that translates into their fall scores in first grade next year.
Yeah.
Interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd seen one of the other slides. Cassie, you're going to hate me. Can you go down to? Yeah. So, knowing that the teachers, and they're doing a phenomenal job by these tours, I saw kind of a trend between the K-5 and also fifth grade, going from 57 to 70, or 57 to 51, but another one was like an increase of 57 to 71. Are the teachers giving you any feedback about what's working, what's not? Because on a couple of them that seem to be going down as the year went on. Is it behavioral? Is it maybe we need to, steer a little bit clear of the context and go in a different route? What are they saying?
I don't know, do any of your staff give you?
The spring assessment takes place right with the window of the forward exam.
Okay.
So there was a lot of discussion for literacy and math that we take that month and it's like test. So depending if you do the forward first or the iReady or Ames. So we did adjust some of that with some of our windows for next year.
Okay.
That's one of the pieces of feedback.
Okay. Awesome. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe the students are just stressed out or something and they're just blown into, a couple of the tests. So, okay. Thanks.
Anything else? I'd just like to make one comment. This is great information for us to see greatly. I understand how much work goes into gathering all this information, and as you were just saying about the students, a lot of times you're going to have test burnout after a while. We've gotten into that syndrome of a lot of assessments, and sometimes you got to keep your finger on the pulse, and is it too much, or are we okay? What's the timeline in that? So thank you. I greatly appreciate that. And this was all informational for the board, no action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, team.
Okay, agenda item 8, Director of Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Ryan Urbanski, will share information about South Mountain EFIS wall system and the need for replacement. And then you're going to be up again right after that, so don't go too far.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. In the late, mid-1990s, early 2000s, some of the, specifically East, Horseman, and South Mountain, they utilized an EFIS system for the wall envelope, if you heard of it, stucco. That was kind of the craze at the time, and it looks nice, but for whatever reason, and I don't have the answers to that, we found out through CISA 10 looking at it, through their assessment, working with some contractors and some engineers and architects, that the design, the details weren't gonna, they weren't correct as far as what they know now how to do it. So, what we did a number of study, or did a bunch of work on it. The work that we're proposing at South Mountain and Horseman have almost identical the same problems. That they had the identical same problems. Last fall, so we're going to go with the same system that I described in my memo to the board. The same method, we're going to take out off the EFIS and then essentially clean it up, put weather guard, re-insulate and put 20 gauge steel on it. We did the same thing at Horseman and completed it last fall, and it went very well. I don't think anybody noticed that the difference between the steel panels and the EFIS. We don't have the long-term care, so we'd like to go that route again. So we knew we had the problem, the leaking problem at South Mountain. So we got the design, RFP'd a number of folks and had a pre-bid meeting, went through the project, received 4 bids. Jackson Associates, who actually did the Horseman project, was a low bidder on the South Mountain project. The cost of the project is $420,000, and they would be starting in fall, November of this year. That's essentially, I'm here tonight I want to get the approval that we can move forward with Jackson Associates to complete the work. But if you have any questions, first of all.
Let me put the motion out, and then we can ask questions after that. I'm seeking a motion to recommend to the full board the acceptance of the bid proposal and contracting Jackson and Associates for the EFIS wall replacement at South Mountain Elementary.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second? All in favor? Or, excuse me, questions? Are there any questions from anyone?
Yeah, is Jackson, who did the work, are they able to offer any type of a discount? Was this something that they installed incorrectly, or was it just the way it was done originally was per the plan, but it wasn't?
So Jackson was the company that did the work to repair the issues we had at Horseman.
Okay.
Follow up on that? No? Okay. Any other? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 9, Buildings and Grounds Director, Mr. Romansky, will share information about the potential auction of various pieces of district equipment and how the proceeds will be used. Very interesting.
Thank you again.
Yes.
We're looking to utilize, we have utilized for nutrition services, extra equipment, and through Buildings and Grounds, we've used Wisconsin surplus auction. They're utilized by a lot of municipalities and government agencies. It's just, but historically, we would haul the stuff down to Mount Horeb, and then they'd auction it. We don't pay the purchasers pay the commission for the sale, but it does get costly. It's tough for timing, but in this instance, we have quite a few pieces of equipment that are out of date, obsolete, don't really fit into I guess, bad purchases, haven't been utilized. So we'd like to get rid of a number of those pieces. And this year, I'd like to have, if I get the board's permission, I'd like to just do a live auction. We have the ability to do it. within the district, so it'd work out really nice. We wouldn't have the expense of taking stuff down to Mount Horeb. We could just do the live auction and leave our stuff in place. But the one ask I have, is why I'm here tonight, is I'd like to get the board's approval to allow the funds, the proceeds that we make off of the auction, that we can put that back into buildings and grounds for purchase of some of the capital things, some of the equipment we're looking at purchasing this year. Versus in the past, oftentimes it went to the general fund. So it is a way that I'd like to utilize, at least on this auction, that I can plan to purchase some needed equipment that we have. So that's my ask. I know in the past, I think the board has approved, if rather than trading in a pickup, they've sold it. They sold it and utilized those funds, but that was prior to me. So I guess that's.
So obviously, you've already asked and begged from Ms. Channel and Mr. Bushman for this to bring it to the board.
Well, yeah, it was.
I'm looking at those two faces and I'm thinking, okay, is this copacetic here? So I will do this. I'm seeking a motion to recommend to the full board the approval to utilize funds from the auction to be designated to Wausau School District buildings and grounds toward updating needed equipment in the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Anyone?
When's the auction and what are we selling? Yeah.
Well, I wanted to get the approval before I went to the auction, because it dictates how I proceed with them. We're looking at fall, September as the time. I can get you a list of the things. There's a few older vintage, like lawnmowers. We have a automated mower blade sharpener that I think we did at one time. We had two of them, and nobody ever used them when we had two. They sold one, and nobody still uses one. It's just it's more efficient to sharpen them the way we sharpen them and balance them. So it's just a piece of equipment that we don't need. So if the board like, I can get you a list of the items that we have. But we have quite a few. There's a log splitter. Why do we need a log splitter? I have no idea. But, and I'm not saying, maybe at the time there's some programming or they had some ideas they wanted to utilize it, but we don't see the need for some of that stuff that we have.
Does this include the equipment in furniture and other things from our consolidated buildings, or is that separate?
No. Our furniture, the furniture that was, our furniture from consolidation was redistributed to the schools. We got rid of some of the outdated stuff and updated it with the existing, with the better furniture.
Yeah, I know a lot of it was, but we also still had some that was still, for example, was at Grant for a while. We had, everything from lunch tables to,
Yeah, we utilized that we had that at Grant and reached out to our various schools and through the custodians and the principals to see what we could give them to update that. The rest of it, the cost of moving it and selling it and storing it, just didn't make a whole lot of sense to keep it.
okay.
Who's in charge of the auction? How much money do we think that we might be able to make from this?
The auction, it would be through Wisconsin Surplus. They're out of Mount Horeb, so they take care of the auction. It's an online auction. It's online auction. So we give, essentially, we send them a picture, we give a description of what it is. You can give them a description of, the maintenance records, and, just depends on how much you want them to know. But, and then they can contact us, they could come and look at it if they wanted to. So that's how it's set up.
How much money do we think?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're estimating between 30 and 60,000. That's the one issue with the auctions is it's only as good as number 2, number 3 better go after it. So
That's why it's called an auction.
yeah, yeah. So we're on certain, but that's what we're kind of estimating.
Any other questions? No. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
seeking a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'm calling a special meeting for Monday, June 22nd to order. Second agenda item, approved consent agenda, appointments, additional staff, replacement staff, contract increases, separations, resignations, contract decreases, terminations, leaves of absence, retirements. I am seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.